Hello students, welcome to Scholar IAS, your one-stop solution for UPSC preparation. I'm Anubhav Sharma. I'm your mentor and guide at Scholar IAS to help you realize your dream of becoming an IAS officer. Students, today I have come up with a very important session which is important for all the students who are aspiring for civil services, and that is what exactly should be the strategy and what should be the sources for us in order to prepare effectively for GS paper 2? We know students, GS paper 2 marks for 250 marks. It mainly includes two parts, that is the polity part and the international relations part, and both these parts are important for you with respect to your preparation for prelims also. So students, in this lesson, in this lecture, in this session, what we'll be doing is to essentially look at the syllabus of GS2. One by one, we'll look at the topic. We will discuss briefly about them. I will also tell you some of the subtopics which are hidden within the syllabus. I'll also tell you the orientation that is required for you in order to write effective answers and of course prepare well. Let's start our session for today. स्टूडेंट्स आई होप आप सबको मेरी ये स्क्रीन दिख रही है. एक चीज मैं और आपको कहना चाहूंगा, इन दिस सेशन eventually I would also answer the questions and queries that you are having with respect to GS2 and also with respect to preparation for civil services as such. अपने सवाल आप कमेंट बॉक्स में डालते रहें. मैं एक एक करके हर सवाल की जवाब देने की कोशिश करूंगा to your satisfaction. Fine. So let's start with our session for today. So students, when we look at the general studies paper 2 for the mains examination of civil services, what I've essentially done is to divide it into subcategories. Of course, polity and international relations is a category which is very visible to us. But if we were to look closely, what we would see that there are in fact categories, subcategories within GS paper 2, which is not limited only to polity. There are issues with respect to governance. There are even topics with respect to public administration. There are topics with respect to social justice, so on, so forth. What I have done is to divide the syllabus, the topics given under these subcategories. Let's start. So students, the first topic that we see in the GS paper 2 is Indian Constitution, underpinnings. Just a second, it's a pointer, yeah. So what exactly is the first topic that we see? It is the understanding that a student would need to have with respect to the Constitution of India. अगर हम आपसी बात करें, study of polity at its heart is study of Indian Constitution. इसमें आपको historical underpinnings, evolution, features of our Constitution, amendment, significant provisions and basic structure को पढ़ना है. And students, with respect to this, most important aspect is basic structure. हमें पता है this basic structure came about after the landmark judgment of Kesavananda Bharati, which essentially said that Indian Constitution can be amended only to that extent till which the basic structure of the Indian Constitution is not getting changed. Students, this is a very important aspect of your preparation for polity. और बहुत बार students जब अपनी prelims की तैयारी करते हैं तो basic structure के important features को नहीं समझते हैं. What is there in basic structure? What is not there in basic structure? In fact, students, it is also important to study the landmark judgments related to basic structure, which goes beyond studying of Kesavananda Bharati judgment. तो यहाँ पे आपको क्या समझना है कि बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट इन दिस पार्ट जब हम इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पढ़ते हैं. वन रीजन इज ऑफ कोर्स इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड सेकंड इज कि प्रीलिम्स में बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर पे सवाल बहुत कम पूछे गए हैं और इसकी सब्जेक्टिव अंडरस्टैंडिंग आप टेस्ट ही नहीं कर सकते प्रीलिम्स में, एंड यू वुड नीड टू आस्क अ क्वेश्चन इन मेंस एग्जामिनेशन. फाइन. डिवाइन का आया है, गुड इवनिंग डिवाइन. आपके जो भी सवाल हो विद रिस्पेक्ट टू यूपीएससी प्रिपरेशन एंड जीएस2 आप यहाँ पे पूछते रहना डिवाइन. Now, the second part is functions and responsibilities of union and states, issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure, devolution of powers, finances up to local level and challenges therein. अगर हम आसान तरीके से बोले, we know that India is a federal polity. We have a central government, we have a state government, and then there was 73rd and 74th amendment to the constitution by which Panchayati Raj institutions got constitutional status. As such, we now have a three-tier government. The first tier being the central government, second being the state government, and third being the Panchayati Raj institutions. ये जो एस्पेक्ट है जो मेन सिलेबस में दिया है, essentially UPSC wants you to know the functions of each of these tiers, the responsibilities with respect to the stateless subjects, centralist subject, for that matter, the subjects that has been included for the Panchayati Raj to legislate over, to rule over. वो यूपीएससी चाहते हैं कि आपको ये सारे सब्जेक्ट्स आपको समझ आए, आपको रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी समझ आए. Apart from it, there are issues and challenges that are pertaining to federal structure. आपको उनके बारे में भी पढ़ना है. जो ये टॉपिक है, issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure, while you can get some basic information in some standard books like Lakshmikant or for that matter D.D. Basu, the more important aspect here would be your understanding of current affairs and current issues. For example, recently we know that there are three controversial farm bills against which a lot of protest is being done by the farmers. Some of the state governments believe that these farm bills are unconstitutional because it pertains to a matter which essentially is a part of the state list. इनकी डिटेल में नहीं जाएंगे, बट essentially जो हमें समझने की कोशिश करनी है that this issue of farm bills, when we see it from the standpoint of कि ये state list का subject है या ये central list का subject है, हम essentially बात कर रहे हैं issues pertaining to federal structure. I hope you understand the context here. Similarly, there was another question which was asked with respect to local government, जो यूपीएससी ने I think 2 या 3 साल पहले पूछा था. सवाल क्या था? That despite bringing about constitutional amendment and bringing clear-cut provisions with respect to state finance commission, with respect to district planning committee, why is it that local government are still ineffective in India? अब बात समझे. Essentially उन्होंने सवाल पूछा with respect to local government, that is पंचायती राज institutions and municipal corporations so on so forth, and उन्होंने context भी दे दिया कि हमने जब state finance commission भी बना दी है, हमने जब डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्लानिंग कमेटी भी बना दी है, ये सारे प्रोविजंस है, फिर भी हम क्यों देख रहे हैं कि डेवोल्यूशन ऑफ पावर ठीक से नहीं हो रही है. This again would require on your part to use examples which will again come from current affairs. तो broadly हमने क्या सोचा समझा that with respect to this part, the basic knowledge, the basic pointers you'll actually be getting from some standard book like Lakshmikant, but when we talk about the current issues that you would need to write as an example, or there could also be a question directly on the current issue, वहां पे आपको न्यूज़पेपर एनालिसिस बहुत अच्छे से करना जरूरी है, राइट? अगर तो लेट मी मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. Next part है separation of power between various organs and dispute redressal mechanism and institutions. This again is a topic which is a pretty straightforward topic, जहाँ पे आपको separation of power के बारे में पढ़ना है. हमको पता है legislature, एग्जीक्यूटिव एंड जुडिशरी के बीच में सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर है. Essentially हमें क्या पढ़ना है? हमें ये पढ़ना है what exactly are these powers, what do we mean by judicial activism, judicial overreach, इन तरह के issues यहाँ पर आ जाते हैं. Dispute redressal mechanisms, basically कि there are different dispute redressal mechanism that we have in India. अब वो हो जाता है आपका जुडिशरी जो सिंपल स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड है, अपार्ट फ्रॉम इट लोक अदालत है, अपार्ट फ्रॉम इट एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ट्राइब्यूनल्स है. इन सारी चीजों के बारे में आपको इस टॉपिक के अंदर पढ़ना पड़ेगा. This again is something which is covered to a reasonable extent in Lakshmikant, but it is through different sources through which you would need to study it, and the most important source would be the current affairs issues and precisely created notes for it. अगर आप पूछिए कोई एक अच्छा सोर्स और आप बता दीजिए इसके लिए, एक्चुअली में कोई नहीं है. हाँ, डिफरेंट सोर्सेस से आपको इसमें कलेक्ट करना पड़ेगा और इसमें आपको अलग से नोट्स बनाने पड़ेंगे। सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट इशू होगा इसमें एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ट्राइब्यूनल्स का। वो क्यों? फॉर द सिंपल रीजन कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ट्राइब्यूनल्स के अराउंड बहुत सारे इश्यूज आ रहे हैं फॉर लास्ट डिकेड, कि क्या एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ट्राइब्यूनल जुडिशरी की पावर्स को सकम कर रहा है। अभी रिसेंटली आया था जो आईटी ट्राइब्यूनल है, उसने सुप्रीम कोर्ट की पावर्स को या हाई कोर्ट की पावर्स को क्या सब्स्यूम कर लिया है जब वो इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ लॉ में जाता है, सो ऑन सो फोर्थ। तो काफी सारे इश्यूज आ जाते हैं। तो डिस्प्यूट रिड्रेसल मैकेनिज्म इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। यहाँ से सवाल बनने की सबसे ज्यादा संभावना है। द चांसेस आर हाईएस्ट फॉर द क्वेश्चन टू बी फ्रॉम दिस टॉपिक। एज सच आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट यू कि आप इस पे खासा ध्यान दें। Then comparison of Indian constitutional scheme with other countries, the best source for this would be NCERTs, 11th standard NCERT. इसके बाहर I do not think a question can actually come. The content that is given in the first chapter of that Indian Constitution at work जो 11th standard की polity या फिर political science की NCERT है। Parliament and state legislatures, दिस अगेन इज समथिंग, दिस टॉपिक जहां आपको इसेंशियली पार्लियामेंट की पावर्स के बारे में, प्रोसीजर्स के बारे में, व्हाट इज मनी बिल, व्हाट इज टोकन, व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ मोशंस, क्वेश्चन आर क्या होता है। फॉर दिस ईयर स्टूडेंट्स, दैट इज फॉर बी 2020 मेंस व्हिच इज हैपनिंग जस्ट 2 days, इन फैक्ट टुमारो, एंड 2 दिन बाद आपका GS2 का पेपर है। तो वहां पे आप देखेंगे, and I can predict it here, there could be a question with respect to parliamentary procedures, mainly because in COVID times, what we are seeing that parliament is not working. So there is this controversy, or there is this kind of an issue which has kind of risen up with respect to the parliamentary functioning, कि क्या पार्लियामेंट सस्पेंड किया जा सकता है when we are conducting exams, when we are trying to open the economy, जब हम लॉकडाउन को एंड कर रहे हैं। Is it fair on the part of government to not let the parliament function? इसलिए पार्लियामेंट उसके स्ट्रक्चर पे इस साल सवाल 2021 में भी सवाल इंपॉर्टेंट है। स्ट्रक्चर, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एंड फंक्शनिंग ऑफ एग्जीक्यूटिव एंड द जुडिशरी, मिनिस्ट्रीज एंड डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, इसके लिए सबसे अच्छा सोर्स है मेरे ख्याल से एम लक्ष्मीकांत। आप लक्ष्मीकांत की बुक को अगर आप अच्छे से पढ़ते हैं, उसमें ये टॉपिक्स बहुत अच्छे से समझाए गए हैं। दैट इज ऑल दैट यू रिक्वायर विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दिस टॉपिक। हाँ, कुछ कुछ आप एग्जाम्पल्स करंट अफेयर से डाल सकते हैं, बट आपकी 90% प्रिपरेशन सिर्फ इन टॉपिक्स की जो मैंने आपको बताया एम लक्ष्मीकांत से हो जाएगी। आपके जो सवाल है आप इसमें डालते रहें ताकि हम साथ ही साथ उनको भी डील करें। नाउ स्टूडेंट्स, हमने पॉलिटी के टॉपिक्स की तो बात कर ली। देयर आर सर्टेन टॉपिक्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू गवर्नेंस। आपके मन में सवाल आएगा, सर गवर्नेंस और पॉलिटी में हम ब्रॉडली अंतर कैसे करें? तो देखो, बात क्या है कि ऐसा नहीं है कि देयर इज अ वाटर टाइट कंपार्टमेंट बिटवीन पॉलिटी एंड गवर्नेंस। There are areas where both of them are overlapping. In fact, one can also argue governance to be an extension of polity. But students, if I were to explain it to you in a simple manner, the main difference between polity and governance is that in polity, we essentially talk about the structure. कि हम जब पढ़ते हैं कि there is a state central government, there is a state government, मतलब फेडरल पॉलिटी है, तो एक स्ट्रक्चर की बात कर रहे हैं। पार्लियामेंट है तो उसमें राज्यसभा है, लोकसभा है, अगेन स्ट्रक्चर की बात है। कैसे कोई मनी बिल पास होता है, अगेन रूल्स की बात है। व्हाट ऑल आर द फंडामेंटल राइट्स, अगेन स्ट्रक्चर की बात है। आई होप यू आर एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट एग्जैक्टली डू वी मीन बाय पॉलिटी। बट जब हम गवर्नेंस की बात करते हैं, वी आर एसेंशियली टॉकिंग अबाउट दोज इश्यूज which crops up when we are trying to implement public policy. कहने का मतलब ये है कि हमने स्टेट बनाया, स्टेट से मतलब है हमने सरकार बनाई, हमने गवर्नमेंट बनाया। Now we want these government to make policies. How the policy will be made is a part of polity, but how exactly a policy will be implemented and what will be the challenges around it will be the part of governance. I hope you are able to now understand. गवर्नेंस में हम एसेंशियली इस बारे में पढ़ते हैं कि गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज किस तरीके से इम्प्लीमेंट होती है, और जो हम चाहते हैं रिजल्ट पाना, बीट के एजुकेशन हो, बच्चे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा एजुकेशन मिले, हायर एजुकेशन के लिए गवर्नमेंट क्या स्टेप लेती है, और फॉर दैट मैटर पॉवर्टी इरेडिकेशन के लिए गवर्नमेंट क्या स्टेप लेती है, उनकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए जो चैलेंजेस आते हैं और जो इश्यूज आते हैं उनको बेहतर तरीके से समझें। लेट अस अंडरस्टैंड द टॉपिक्स और आपको एकदम क्लियर हो जाएगा व्हाट डू वी मीन बाय इश्यूज ऑफ गवर्नेंस। तो पहली चीज आती है, हाँ, तो डिवाइन पूछ रहे हैं हाउ टू प्रिपेयर फॉर गवर्नेंस एंड व्हिच बुक टू फॉलो। तो डिवाइन, आई एम टॉपिक बाय टॉपिक आई टेल यू द राइट सोर्स फॉर यू। तो सबसे पहले है salient features of representative of People's Act, representation of People's Act, right? So representation of People's Act is something that you are supposed to study mainly for mains examination and not so much for prelims. Although few years back there was a question on representation of People's Act even in prelims examination. अब इसके लिए सबसे सही सोर्स क्या है? इसके लिए सबसे सही सोर्स इन माय ओपिनियन इज ऑफ कोर्स देयर इज अ बिट व्हिच हैज बीन एक्सप्लेन्ड इन एम लक्ष्मीकांत, उसको तो पढ़िए, बट अगर आप नॉर्मल गूगल सर्च करके विकिपीडिया को भी अच्छे से पढ़ लेंगे, दैट इज ऑल दैट यू वुड नीड टू नो इन ऑर्डर टू आंसर एनी क्वेश्चन दैट इज बीइंग आस्क्ड फ्रॉम आरओपी एक्ट। एक एस्पेक्ट जिस पे आप खासा ध्यान दीजिएगा वो क्या है कि इसमें किस तरह के रिफॉर्म्स की जरूरत है, इसमें किस तरह के जजमेंट सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने दिए हैं, एंड इसमें किस तरह के डिसीजंस इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया ने लिए हैं, जो बहुत ब्रॉड और इंपॉर्टेंट डिसीजंस है, राइट। तो रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ पीपल्स एक्ट के लिए सबसे अच्छा सोर्स है इंटरनेट, उसमें भी विकिपीडिया अगर आप पढ़ेंगे तो ब्रॉडली आपको सब समझ में आ जाएगा। कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट इश्यूज और पॉइंट्स पे ध्यान दें क्योंकि वहीं से सवाल बनेंगे। व्हाट ऑल आर दीज इश्यूज? issue with respect to what all decisions that Election Commission of India has taken, what Supreme Court has taken, so on, so forth, right? Then appointment of various constitutional posts, powers, functions, responsibilities of various constitutional bodies. हमें पता है there are bodies which are constitutional, there are bodies which are non-constitutional, there are statutory bodies, and then there are other paid bodies that we call as executive bodies. Essentially, we need to understand what all are the constitutional bodies, what all are the functions of these bodies, what all are the functions of these bodies, like Election Commission of India, like CAG, all these are constitutional bodies. We would need to know the functions, responsibilities. Again, M. Lakshmikant is a good enough book, but हाँ, बहुत बार सवाल आपके करंट अफेयर्स बेसिस पे भी आ सकता है, तो करंट अफेयर्स एनालिसिस इज आल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर दिस पार्ट, बट मेन बुक फॉर दिस विल बी एम लक्ष्मीकांत इन ऑर्डर टू कवर दिस टॉपिक। Then statutory, regulatory, and various quasi-judicial bodies. This again is something that is covered in Lakshmikant. You don't really have to go beyond it. Then government policies and interventions for development in various sectors, issues arising out of their design and implementation. Students from this part, and in fact this part also, development process and development industry, for both these part questions will be asked directly from your current affairs, current issues. For example, when we talk about development in various sectors and issues arising out of design and implementation, this can be asked with respect to Swachhta Bharat Abhiyan. It is a government policy. What exactly were the issues around it? A question can be asked with respect to Aadhaar policy, that what all are the issues with respect to privacy that has been raised in the Aadhaar scheme of the government, right? Then there can also be a question with respect to, let's say, demonetization. How effective was demonetization? What exactly am I trying to tell you here? Essentially, when we talk about this topic, we are trying to understand recent government policies that the government has passed and what all decisions government has taken around it, the critical analysis of it, reasons for it, pros and cons with respect to it, and understanding what all are the reforms required, right? Then when we talk about role of NGOs, SHGs, various groups and associations, basic knowledge तो आपको एमएलएक्स से मिल जाएगी, बट अगेन इसमें अगर आप देखेंगे करंट इश्यूज पे ही तवज्जो दी जाती है। इसके लिए आपको बहुत सारे मटेरियल को कंपाइल करना पड़ेगा फ्रॉम डिफरेंट रिसोर्सेज, करंट इश्यूज को अच्छे से कंपाइल करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि यहाँ पे आपको कोई वन फिट ऑल पॉलिसी नहीं है, कोई वन फिट ऑल अप्रोच काम नहीं करेगा। आई होप यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से हियर, राइट? फाइन। इसके बाद आता है इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक विद रिस्पेक्ट टू सोशल जस्टिस, राइट? आप अपने कमेंट्स डालते रहिए। डिवाइन हैज आस्क्ड, should we have to buy the latest edition of Lakshmikant or the old version will do? डिवाइन ने एक अच्छा सवाल पूछा, वो ये पूछ रहे हैं, सर when we talk about Lakshmikant, is it necessary for us to always have the latest version? Well, in my opinion, divine, no, it is not required, for the reason if you see the kind of updates that are happening, it's not very major. But yes, your Lakshmikant book should not be 3 editions old, because what happens is that in about 2 to 3 years there are some major changes that happen. For example, now 370 has been removed. So if you are following a Lakshmikant book which is before that, it will look at Article 370 as something which is still in play. As such, you may get misled. Now, if you are smart enough to identify things which you need to study from Lakshmikant and things that has changed, then again, an older version can do for you. But certainly, it should not be a version which is 2 to 3 editions old. If it is 1 year edition old, it's absolutely fine. I hope this answers the question that you had. Fine. अब हम बात करते हैं सोशल जस्टिस का. Essentially, student social justice is a very important topic और बहुत सारे सवाल, मतलब around 30 to 40% of the questions of GS paper 2 can actually be linked to topics of social justice. सोशल जस्टिस का इसेंशियल मीनिंग ये होता है स्टूडेंट्स कि हम बात करते हैं उन टॉपिक्स की, उन मुद्दों की जो सोसाइटी को इफेक्ट करते हैं, मेनली द पुअर ऑफ द सोसाइटी, द वल्नरेबल ऑफ द सोसाइटी, द वेलफेयर schemes with respect to classes that are discriminated, discrimination that can be on the basis of caste or for that matter on the basis of gender. For example, women के लिए अगर कोई स्पेशल पॉलिसीज गवर्नमेंट ला रही है या SC ST कम्युनिटी, ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी, इनके लिए ला रही है, ये सारे मुद्दे सोशल जस्टिस में आ जाते हैं. I hope you understand what do we mean by social justice. And students, social justice is very important for you to study. Everything that you would study in this section will also help you in order to cover the GS1 social issues part. It will also help you in your ethics paper where there are some questions which requires you to have understanding of social justice in order to do ethical analysis. So, मेरे opinion में social justice is one of the most important topic जीएस पेपर 2 और इसमें खासा फोकस देने की जरूरत है. वेलफेयर स्कीम्स और वल्नरेबल सेक्शंस ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन बाय सेंटर, स्टेट एंड सेंटर एंड परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ दी स्कीम्स, राइट. एसेंशियली इसमें आपको क्या पढ़ना है? आपको पढ़ना है लिस्ट ऑफ ऑल मेजर गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज, दैट इज सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज दैट हैज बीन रिलीज्ड. You would need to know what all are the specifics in it, what exactly does it seek to achieve. जो और अच्छे स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं, जो बहुत सीरियस स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं, वो बजटरी एलोकेशन फॉर दैट स्कीम उसको भी याद करके रखते हैं. इसमें आपको उसकी प्रो एंड कॉन की एनालिसिस करना है और उसको आपको प्रेजेंट करना है, बीट अगर डायरेक्ट सवाल आ जाए या कोई सवाल आ जाए किसी इशू पे एंड यू आर एबल टू यूज देम एज एग्जांपल्स. फॉर एग्जांपल, फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन पे सवाल आ गया और आपने जनधन योजना का एग्जांपल यूज कर लिया, राइट. तो इसमें सबसे सही तरीका पढ़ने का क्या है? Essentially, you should pick out a material which almost all coaching institutes these days are providing, but I would recommend you कि आप Scholar IAS का देखें, जिसमें list of government policies provided है और हर government policies को ministries के according हमने classify कर दिया है. हर गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज की स्पेसिफिक्स को हमने डिस्कस किया है एंड दिस इज इजीली एंड रेडिली अवेलेबल ऑन आवर वेबसाइट एंड ऑन आवर ऐप. आप जाइए और आप इसको देखिए, राइट. अगर आपने उस डॉक्यूमेंट को ठीक से पढ़ लिया है, then all that is required on your part is to make notes with respect to the challenges of these policies. Fine. ये बेस्ड ऑन होती है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू करंट इश्यूज. अगर कोई पॉलिसी है गवर्नमेंट की जो न्यूज में है या फिर कोई मुद्दा है जो न्यूज में है, तो उसके अराउंड वेलफेयर पॉलिसीज, वेलफेयर स्कीम्स बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अभी हम जानते हैं फार्मर प्रोटेस्ट इज समथिंग विच इज इन न्यूज, बहुत ज्यादा फार्मर प्रोटेस्ट हो रहा है. तो एग्रीकल्चरल पॉलिसीज, पॉलिसीज फॉर फार्म एक्सटेंशन, policies with respect to in order to create the infrastructure, let's say APMC, model APMC, or for that matter ENAM, इन तरह की policies इस साल के लिए बहुत important हो गई है and so is for next year. कि ये जो policies है क्योंकि ये current issues में है and it is linked with farm issues, इसलिए इनको पढ़ना जरूरी है. I hope you understand that even with respect to UPSC there is a pattern that you can see कि जिस questions को वो importance देते हैं, right? Issues relating to development and management of social sector, services relating to health, education, human resources. Students, essentially, if I were to break it down and put it to you in a very simple manner, ये जो टॉपिक है, issues relating to development and management of social sector and services, यहाँ पे आपको मेनली FDG गोल, HDI उसको अच्छे से पढ़ना है और इकोनॉमिक सर्वे में जो हमने हेल्थ, एजुकेशन, ह्यूमन रिसोर्स के बारे में जो चीजें डिस्कस हुई उसको अच्छे से पढ़ना है. इफ यू वर टू सी द क्वेश्चंस दैट हैज बीन आस्क्ड इन यूपीएससी टू दिस रिस्पेक्ट, ये इन 3 जगह से ही देखे जा रहे हैं. इकोनॉमिक सर्वे में जो इंफॉर्मेशन आती है या कोई प्रपोजल आता है, और फॉर दैट मैटर HDI एनालिसिस, ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स में इंडिया की क्या रैंक है, इट कैन ऑल्सो बी लिंक टू हंगर इंडेक्स वगैरह, उस पर भी सवाल आ सकता है। बट अगर आपने ये चीजें की हैं तो आप सुनिश्चित रहें दैट यू विल एक्चुअली बी एबल टू सॉल्व दिस क्वेश्चन। ये जो 3-4 मैंने आपको बातें बताई, इसका ध्यान रखिए। Issues related to poverty and hunger, again this is something which is linked closely to this। इन दोनों टॉपिक्स को आपको साथ में ही पढ़ना पड़ेगा। यहाँ पे ऐसे एक्सप्लेन इकोनॉमिक सर्वे, गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज एंड इंडेक्स रिपोर्ट्स, HDI के, हंगर इंडेक्स के, पॉवर्टी इंडेक्स के, ये सारी जो रिपोर्ट्स है वो बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती है। इवन एक सवाल आया है 2 या 3 साल पहले, आई थिंक 2 साल पहले आया था, एसर रिपोर्ट पे, एसर फाइंडिंग पे, राइट। Any particular book for social justice or only CA to be followed? So again a good question, Divine. So what all are the books? मैंने अभी आपको बता दिया with respect to welfare schemes। आप Scholar IAS का जो गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज का मॉडल जो मॉड्यूल है वो आप ले लीजिए, उसको आप अच्छे से पढ़िए। अपार्ट फ्रॉम इट करंट अफेयर्स से कीजिए with respect to issues related to development management, social sector or poverty and hunger। इसमें economic survey will be very important। पॉलिसीज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू पॉवर्टी हंगर ये इंपॉर्टेंट है। इंडेक्सेस आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, HDI इंडेक्स, हंगर इंडेक्स, इसमें इंडिया की क्या रैंक है, और उसके बारे में जो आर्टिकल्स उस टाइम पे आते हैं उससे आप नोट्स बना के रख लीजिए। एसर रिपोर्ट हैज आल्सो बिकम वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, जैसे मैंने बताया वो एजुकेशन से लिंक्ड है। अगर आपने ये 3-4 चीजें की हैं, आई कैन अश्योर यू कुछ भी सवाल आ जाएगा इन दो टॉपिक से, यू विल बी एबल टू सॉल्व इट, राइट। अलग से कोई बुक पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है। How to manage ERC report? So Divine, this is a slightly different question. We'll come to it afterwards. Right. So now the next part of GS paper 2 is public administration. What is public administration? Essentially, when we talk about governance, what exactly are we trying to say? That we have state, हमने एक सरकार बनाई है, सरकार would require to make some policies in order to bring welfare to the people। In order to bring these policies and implement it on the ground, सरकार को क्या चाहिए? What does the government require? It would require a very competent bureaucracy, a very competent batch of Indian civil services, the same services you want to join as IAS, IPS officers। लेकिन जो ये IAS, IPS, IRS ऑफिसर्स होंगे, जो ये ब्यूरोक्रेसी होगी, there has to be a modulus operandi in which they should operate, there has to be a system in which they should operate, there has to be certain values they need to follow, there must be certain issues with respect to the civil services, public services part of it। ये सारे इश्यूज GS पेपर 2 में पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की सब कैटेगरी में आ जाते हैं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इसमें पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पार्ट ऑफ GS पेपर 2 में आता है इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ गवर्नेंस, ट्रांसपेरेंसी, अकाउंटेबिलिटी। दैट इज व्हाट डू वी मीन बाय गुड गवर्नेंस, what is the model of good governance, you probably might have to study about Sivuttam, then transparency, accountability, like what exactly do we mean by RTI, what are the issues with respect to RTI। then there could be a question with respect to accountability when they use social audit। They can also ask a question on citizen charter, in fact they have asked a question on citizen charter 2 or 3 times in the last 6 years, right? So all these aspects are related to those core values which is required on the part of public servant to implement it, that is implement the policies while keeping these values in mind, right? इनकी analysis पढ़ना बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी हो जाता है। Briefly they have been dealt in M. Lakshmikant book, but broadly you would need to depend on coaching material because coaching material उसको compile कर देता है कुछ में। The best book in my opinion is ML Fadia। This is a book which generally students of public administration are reading for coverage of these topics, but that is too much. That is excessive for the students who are preparing with GS, who are preparing for GS paper 2, and they have an optional which is not public administration, right? तो गवर्नेंस, ट्रांसपेरेंसी, अकाउंटेबिलिटी का आपको बेसिक मीनिंग पता होना चाहिए। आपको ये पता होना चाहिए व्हाट इज गुड गवर्नेंस, गुड गवर्नेंस के बारे में आपको 5-6 बातें पता होनी चाहिए। देन ट्रांसपेरेंसी एंड अकाउंटेबिलिटी को भी आपको एनालाइज करना है, व्हाट ऑल आर द पॉलिसीज लाइक RTI, जैसे मैंने बताया, सिटीजन चार्टर बताया, there is a लोकपाल policy which is mainly targeting towards bringing the culprit accountable, right? तो ये सारे एस्पेक्ट्स आ जाते हैं। अगेन करंट इश्यूज, will be important, some basic knowledge from M. Lakshmikant and DD Basu, but coaching material will be the most important source for you to cover these topics. Then e-governance, again a topic. What is e-governance? What all are the initiatives that can be taken in information communication technology in order to make governance easy so that people are able to get the governance. For example, आप में आधार का details बदल सकते हैं, DigiLocker is one of the ways in which you can keep your documents safe, right? E-governance can also be that you can book your LPG. So all these things comes under e-governance. Again, इसके लिए भी आपको कोचिंग मटेरियल पर ही डिपेंड होना पड़ेगा. The material that you see in M. Lakshmikant, DD Basu, and some of the other standard books is inefficient and it is not getting updated in the right manner, right? With citizen charter, transparency, accountability in institution and other measures, ये तो हमने डिसाइड कर ही लिया, पढ़ ही लिया है. इसमें आपको एक चीज को ये ध्यान रखना है कि जो भी आप पढ़े, चाहे सिटीजन चार्टर, सोशल ऑडिट, लोकपाल, हमेशा उनकी कमियां एंड द रिफॉर्म्स दैट आर रिक्वायर्ड इन ऑर्डर टू गेट इट राइट, उसको जरूर पढ़े. यहीं पे ही एक इम्पोर्टेंट इशू आ जाता है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू Civil Services Board. That was a TSR Subramaniam judgment which Supreme Court had passed. This judgment is very important क्योंकि उसमें वो specifics discuss किए थे जो reforms का काम करेंगे. In the similar manner, there is a Prakash Singh judgment that is mainly with respect to police reforms. That again is a judgment which is very important for you to study. ये दोनों ही जो जजमेंट में अगर आप ढंग से आप पढ़ेंगे, जो जजमेंट की स्पेसिफिक्स थे उसको पढ़ेंगे, वहां पे आपकी बहुत अच्छी तैयारी हो जाएगी विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द रिफॉर्म्स दैट यू नीड टू स्टडी. तो हमने क्या समझा, that this is a topic which mainly deals with public administration. You will not be getting one source for it. You would need to kind of depend on coaching material. There are several coachings. All of them are trying to compile in different way. अगर आप दोनों सबकी कलेक्टिव को देखोगे, you'll actually see कि आपका ये चीज कवर हो जाएगा. कुछ जो अदर स्पेसिफिक्स मैंने बताया उसका भी आप ध्यान रखिए. रोल ऑफ सिविल सर्विसेज इन अ डेमोक्रेसी इज अ टॉपिक व्हिच विल गेट कवर्ड इन योर जीएस पेपर 4. What exactly do we mean by role of civil services democracy? We mean role of civil services when we are operating in a democracy, number one, and when we are operating in Indian democracy. दोनों की information आपको होना जरूरी है. What exactly do we mean by that? That there are certain democratic ethos and values which a state needs to provide to the citizens. Democratic values क्या हो जाती है? Freedom, equality, equity, liberty, so on and so forth, right? So when we talk about civil servants, the idea is not just they act as instruments in hand of political executives in order to implement the policies, but they are also trying in their implementation, in their functioning, to ensure that they are enabling democratic ethos, to ensure that they are meeting these democratic values of ensuring freedom, liberty, equality, equity, non-discrimination, etc. इसके बारे में आपकी तैयारी, इफ यू आस्क मी, अगर आप एथिक्स को अच्छे से पढ़ते हैं उसमें हो जाएगी, तो ज्यादा घबराने की बात नहीं है, राइट? ओके. So Divine is again asking, does SkholarIAS have online courses which covers pre-mains optional with the fee structure? So with respect to mains, we are covering Divine GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4, everything that is related to general studies. We also have a batch on NCERTs, that is the right launchpad for any new aspirant, even people who have already prepared. If you see the trend of questions that are getting asked in UPSC prelims as well as in mains, the questions are directly taken from the new NCERTs that we have, right? So NCERTs again have become very important. So we have a batch on NCERT. We have a full course which actually covers with everything that you need to study with respect to general studies. Mains के optional के लिए we are thinking few things. We have consulted few experts in this regard, and very soon we'll also come up with optional subjects in order to help you to prepare for civil services, right? For now, you can go and check out our full course and our course on NCERT, right? Do we have all our things, all our material is available online, right? Now we come to the next part, that is international relations. This in fact is the last part. Students, till last year, the questions on international relations used to be not more than one or two. So there used to be two questions, that's it. But last year, what exactly we saw, that there were a number of questions. In fact, around 25 to 30% of the paper was based on international relations. That is about 50 to 70 marks. I, in my expert opinion, believe this year too, international relations will be a very important aspect in the paper. अभी 2 दिन में पेपर हो जाएगा, so we'll get to know about it. But I believe that this is a very important move, a very important shift that we are seeing in GS paper 2, where now UPSC will be trying to bring about more questions from international relations. अब इसका reason क्या है? There could be a number of reasons, but I guess the most important reason is a lot of international issues that are happening. That could be the military exercises, that could be the disturbance that is happening between India, China, India, Pakistan. That could be the Silk Route development that we are seeing right now. So there are a number of things that are happening. Even issues with respect to climate change, that again has political implications. Issues with respect to cryptocurrency, although the question can be asked in your GS paper 3 because it relates to science and tech, but there could be question on cryptocurrency with respect to the political aspect, international relations aspect. Then cyber governance has again become very important last 3-4 years because of the snooping that we are seeing. As such, in the recent past, or rather recent years, international relations issues has taken the center stage, and that is also reflected in the weightage now GS paper 2 will be having. इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस की बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छी तैयारी करना ज़रूरी है. इसमें आप एसेंशियली देखेंगे इंडिया एंड इट्स नेबरहुड रिलेशंस, बायलैटरल, रीजनल, ग्लोबल ग्रुपिंग्स. इस पे हर साल सवाल आता ही है. इसमें 2 तरह की ग्रुपिंग्स को मेनली आपको पढ़ना है. एक जिसमें इंडिया इज अ पार्ट एंड एक जिसमें इंडिया इज नॉट अ पार्ट. एक ट्रेंड देखा जा रहा है कि जहाँ पे दोनों तरह के सवाल आते हैं. फाइन. देन इफेक्ट ऑफ पॉलिसीज एंड पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ डेवलप्ड एंड डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज on India's interest in Indian diaspora. This again is something that we know is very important. अगर गल्फ वॉर होता है, कोई भी किसी कहीं पे कंट्री में वॉर होता है, बट एग्जैक्टली विल बी द इम्प्लीकेशंस ऑन इंडियाज इंटरेस्ट. अगर क्लाइमेट चेंज के जो हमने कमिटमेंट्स थे उससे यूएसए पीछे जा रहा है, उससे इंडिया पे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा. एक इशू होता है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू WTO, that a lot of times we see that USA files a complaint against India that it is violating the norms of WTO. चाहे वो एग्रीकल्चर सब्सिडी का हो, चाहे वो किसी और इकोनॉमिक इशू का हो, that again comes under international relations, something that we would need to study, right? So this again is important for us to understand and study. Then important international institutions, agencies, fora, their structure and mandate. This again is pretty straightforward. कोई भी आप मॉड्यूल अगर आप उठा लेंगे, even SkholarIAS is also providing it. अगर आप उसको पढ़ लेंगे, उसी से ही आपकी तैयारी हो जाएगी. वेयर यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड UN, वर्ल्ड बैंक, हाउ एग्जैक्टली आर दे ऑपरेटिंग, IMF, हाउ एग्जैक्टली इज इट ऑपरेटिंग, UN CAD. सो उन सारे इंस्टीट्यूशंस के बारे में आपको बेसिक इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए. One thing that I can confirm you, I can promise you, questions on international relations will be directly from current issues. आपकी कोई one book will not help you. हाँ, NCERT जो 12th standard की है, that can be a good source for you to build your base, but overall you would need to rely on newspapers and your notes that you will make. Fine. अब बात आती है what all can be the sources by which you can prepare for this exam. The first important source are the NCERTs. The first NCERT that is important is political theory. Any particular book for IR? So divine, as I explained, there is no one particular book. But this contemporary world politics, in my opinion, is very important if you want to set the base right. Apart from it, newspaper, that is editorial, is very important. अगर आप कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स के आप वो लेते हैं जो मंथली कंपाइलेशन विच नाउ हैज बिकम वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, उसमें IR के सेक्शन को बार बार पढ़िए, रिवाइज कीजिए. न्यूज़पेपर में एक सी राजा मोहन होते हैं जिनके आर्टिकल्स आते हैं, एक प्रताप भानु मेहता के आर्टिकल्स आते हैं. Both these articles a lot of times are linked to international relations and issues. I have seen a trend where we see a direct link between the questions asked and the articles that C. Raja Mohan has written. So that again could be a very important lever. आप C. Raja Mohan के articles को अच्छे से पढ़िए. हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर में जनरली आते हैं, प्रताप भानु मेहता की जनरली आते हैं इंडियन एक्सप्रेस में. So that again is something that you can consider in order to cover your IR in a more effective manner. Anyways, coming to polity case sources. So the first is of course NCERTs. 9th and 10th NCERTs are also important, but that is more important for your prelims preparation. Direct सवाल 9th and 10th NCERT से prelims preparation में आ रहे हैं. But for main preparation, my advice would be that you should start with 11th standard NCERT, one on political theory and Indian Constitution at Work. ये जो NCERT है, Indian Constitution at Work, mainly is a miniature form of our constitution. So this is very easy on the eye. It doesn't take a lot of time for you to kind of study. Yes, first time आप पढ़ेंगे आपको complicated लग सकती है, but it is very important. This is something that you should be reading. A lot of questions can actually be framed, or rather answers can be framed by the content that you see here. Why exactly am I recommending you political theory? Students, in the recent past, what has happened is there are questions which are being asked with respect to meaning of secularism. There is a question which was asked with respect to liberty. There was a essay kind of a question which was linked with equality, fairness, secularism in Indian context, so on and so forth. All these questions would require you to have clear-cut understanding of the definitions of these terms, and this book is the right source for it. In fact, such questions in objective form has also been asked in the prelims examination. Wahan pe bhi ye book has become very, very important. Then students, there is an NCERT, Contemporary World Politics. This again is a very important NCERT for you to have a basic understanding of the issues and things that you would need to know in order to understand newspaper better. Then Politics in India since Independence. ये है essentially post independent history के बारे में एक बहुत अच्छी NCERT. GS1 में you have to read this book, but also for polity, that is GS2, my recommendation would be that you should read this book. Why? Because it can also become a very important source for you to use examples. For example, अगर सवाल social justice पे आता है या governance के issue पे आता है, you can just take an example that you have studied in this book and you can place it there in order to have an effective answer. All these NCERTs have been covered by a very learned faculty, Rahul Yaduka, in the NCERT plan that we have. We have covered all these NCERTs. We have covered each and every chapter of this NCERTs, and we have covered it in a manner in which we have covered every subheading, right? So my advice is that if you are really serious about preparing for civil services and you want to get a light start with the NCERT course that we have. Even if you subscribe for full course, for those students also we are giving access to NCERT videos. आप full course की तैयारी कर रहे हैं, this is your first serious attempt. Start with NCERTs. These NCERTs has been covered in a very, very, very effective and efficient manner in our lectures, right? Even some demo lectures for political theory by Rahul Yaduka, we have already uploaded it on Scholar website. तो आप वहाँ Scholar का जो YouTube पेज है दादा, उस पे हमने डाल दिया है, आप उस पे जाके check out कर सकते हैं the quality. Then some of the standard books that you need to cover, Indian M. Lakshmikant, and if you want to complement it, D.D. Basu. D.D. Basu with respect to constitutional debates and also with respect to understanding of constitutionalism, one of the things on which a question has been asked in paper 2 as well as in paper 4. This is very important. I think आप इस book को पढ़ सकते हैं. हाँ, M. Lakshmikant will always be the more important book for the reason कि इससे जो आपको base understanding चाहिए, the foundation in terms of the foundational understanding that you would require will come from M. Lakshmikant. Then students, newspaper reading, as I said, is very important. आप चाहे तो Hindu newspaper पढ़ सकते हैं because this is something which a lot of toppers are recommending. But Indian Express is equally good newspaper. In fact, in some aspects, I believe it to be better than the Hindu newspaper. Indian Express में आप explained section पे जरूर ध्यान दीजिए. Even if you are taking Hindu, you're reading Hindu, one thing that you can do is you can just download the app of Indian Express and go to the explained section of the newspaper. It is absolutely free. You can access it. And explained section में 4 out of 5 times you get something which is important for your prelims and mains examination. Newspaper analysis will be very important in that regard. In fact, let me give you a list of some of the articles that you should look out for. So C. Raja Mohan, तो मैंने आपको बताया is important. Apart from it, Pratap Bhanu Mehta, that again is very important. Another important source articles that you should look out for is Shiv Vishwanathan. He's actually a sociologist, but he's always giving them very good articles and data and analysis with respect to issues of social justice. शिव विश्वनाथन के आर्टिकल्स भी आप देखिए, हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर में जनरली आते हैं. I'm sorry. Then Ashish Nandi, this again, he's a very learned scholar. He also is writing in both Indian Express as well as in Hindu. Again, there is a direct link between the essays that are being asked in the essay paper and the social justice questions that are being asked in the polity, that is GS paper 2. Then Karuna Nandi, she is actually a lawyer. She actually writes from legal standpoint about the new emerging issues, be it with respect to Article 370 removal, be it with respect to triple talaq. The data, the content that she provides actually gives you good fodder material in order to effectively substantiate the point that you want to make, right? So this again can be a very important source. So मैंने क्या बताया? सी राजा मोहन, प्रताप भानु मेहता, शिव विश्वनाथन, करुणा नंदी. फाइन स्टूडेंट्स, अब हमने बहुत सारी बातें की. There were a lot of things that we actually spoke about, and a lot of things that we discussed. The question is that one part of your struggle while you prepare for civil service, of course, would be that you need to cover so much of content. But another part of the struggle will be to actually compile this content and bring it to one page. What we are doing at Scholar IAS is to help you out with the second part of the struggle. Indeed, hard work is something that cannot be replaced here. But we at Scholar IAS are trying to make your journey to becoming an IAS officer as smooth, as clinical as possible. We want to be that one-stop solution for you in order to prepare all the subjects in a manner by which you can answer the questions. क्योंकि बहुत बार हो जाता है हम पढ़ा तो दें, but क्या questions उससे आ रहे हैं? The material that you'll see, the content, the current affairs magazines. If you actually look at the videos that we have uploaded on the YouTube channel, and we have, I mean, these are mainly the demo videos and model videos that we have. What you would see is very rich content. What you would see is a direct link between the questions that are being asked in UPSC and the content that we are providing. And there is really nothing that you need to do beyond consuming the content that we are providing to you in order to clear civil services. This is how our web page looks like. I would urge you to go to Scholar IAS and check it out. Here you see, you get all the content that is required in a very organized manner. You get mind maps, you get test series, you get revision notes, because we do not want you to make your revision notes and spend your time there. We provide you revision notes so that you can revise everything very quickly. Even with respect to current affairs, we are covering not just the most important newspaper articles across newspapers, but we are also covering All India Radio, and we are covering important Rajya Sabha TV debates. Even our monthly magazine is available to you. That is easily and freely available. I would want you to go check it out, download it, और आपको खुद ही दिख जाएगा जब मैं आपको बताने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, तो kind of quality and hard work that we are putting in order to do that. This is all, students, that we had for this session. अगर आपके और सवाल है, please ask away. I am here to help you out. कोई भी आपके मन में हो, any kind of question that you might be having with respect to Scholar IAS, with respect to UPSC preparation, even it could be something related to some other subject, please ask me here. Fine. So I would presume that there are no questions right now. Fine. So students, this is all that we had for this session. If you have any query, if you have any doubts, if you want to know about Scholar IAS, please log on to Scholar IAS, download our app. Do follow us on YouTube, because we are uploading some very, very good, very high level content. Some of the most, the biggest coachings which are charging lakhs of money are not producing that kind of content. हम लोग बहुत ही reasonable, बहुत ही cheap price पे आप लोगों को दे रहे हैं, because we want to be partner in your journey to become a civil servant. Please आप इस चीज को देखिए, सब्सक्राइब कीजिए, फॉलो कीजिए, बेल आइकन को दबाइए, एंड यस, अपने फ्रेंड्स को शेयर कीजिए. Thank you guys. Good night. All the best. Stay safe.